Okay, here a video on how you can use the trace bitmap for different images. As you can see, I have 4 images loaded here. They are all the same image, only they are colored in differently. So we'll start with one. I'll turn a few off right now, and we'll start with this one. So there we have the image, and just with an outline image, then we select the image, and then we go path, trace bitmap, and then we get our trace bitmap window. Then we have different options here in the trace bitmap. We have a single scan, and there we have a number of options, and we have multi-scan, and we have also multiple options. So I will only use a few of them. Some of them don't work the greatest, in my opinion, for what we want to do for the embroidery, but there's all kinds of ways, and we can also do multi-scans of one image and use one part of the one scan and another part of another scan from the same image. So there's many possibilities, but this is just a little start. I'm thinking of doing a few more videos on doing more stuff with the trace bitmap images. So then we have here the threshold, and that is the number what we can change and play around with. And then we do an update, and if you watch the update, you may see all of a sudden and it disappears, because with that threshold it will not pick up any of the darker pixels. So we have to increase that number, and when we are satisfied we will click OK. But some images, it really depends on the quality of your image, on what kind of quality of vector you are gonna be getting. So if we increase this number, sometimes we will see that with some images that the outlines are not totally closed up. So then we go and try to increase the number that everything is closing in. So there we do another update, and we are happy here. What we can do also with some images, we will get some speckles inside, and then we can increase this number so it will delete or not pick up those little speckles. And the smoothness of the corners, I don't touch it because I want to remain as fairly tight corners. And the optimizing, I will sometimes go and increase that a little bit, and then when we're satisfied, then we just click the OK, and then we can see here there is a path created. I will go and close the trace bitmap window, and now we're looking at the image, and it doesn't look like anything has really changed, but that is because the vector or the path is laying right on top of the image. So then you have to make sure that the path is selected, and then you can just go and drag it out of the way, and then we have our image here, and we can turn the visibility off, or we can go and delete the image. That depends on what we want to do. If we want to use it for different purposes, or maybe do another scan yet, then we can. So now we have this image. Now we can go with something like this. We can start filling in, and we can go to the paint bucket, and if totally nothing is selected, then we can go and change the color of the paint bucket on the as we're going. You can see now I have the fill is set to the purple, and so now we can go, and also here on top, that is the settings for the paint bucket. And what we want, if we want to fill up just within the edge, then we can have this number at a 0. And if we want to have that it overlaps a little bit onto the black, then we can go and we can increase that number. And now we can just go and click and fill in all our areas. And now here the leaf, but we want that a green, so we first click it in with a purple and then just switch it with a green, and now we will continue coloring in with the green. And we can do that the same with throughout the page, and it will create for each section, it will create a separate path. And that's how we can go. Now the flower, we can go and change there the color. As you can see, we can color in any, oh, I should have stayed on the same color. Well, that's a little different, but that's okay. It's just for, there we go. There you can have it colored in, and then you can start applying params if you want to. Your outlines, I will do that in another tutorial, and we'll talk more about the rest of the digitizing, because here too, here where these black lines are, I will go and grab one, and you can see we have all little lines showing, and that can all be fixed up. So, but we'll talk about that later. Okay, then we go to the next image. So that is let me see. Okay, yeah, that's the image we had. Now I can go and I'll delete those. Oh. Delete. Now we'll go and have this image. This image, as you can see, it has lines, the black outlines, and it's got a coloring in there. So let's go and path trace bitmap, and we go and do an update, because it still had the settings from the previous painting in there. So we want to make sure that we do an update, and then we can go and play here with the update. And there you can see we start getting, now you can see we are basically back at exactly the same point as on the previous image what we were using, and we would have to color it in. But you can see the brightness threshold is at a way different number. So if this is the direction we want to go, then that is what we can do and paint it in after. But there is also an edge detection. We can play with that. There you can see that is a fairly similar image what it's creating, but when we apply it, we will see that the outline is a little different. Well, let's go and no, I can go back to that in a second. And we can go the color quantization. So there we have this option. This could be used for some instances. Then we also have the opportunity to go and invert and check it. There you can see basically we getting here the leaves and we getting the flowers. So there are possibilities. It just depends too on what you want to embroider and how you want to embroider it. And even you could go and use this as a second scan for that matter too. And auto trace, you can go update, and I have noticed a few times that if you're doing the auto trace, it will show up okay in the update window here, but then when I go and load the path, as you can see, that doesn't look good whatsoever. And for what reason that is, I am not sure, but that overall, that seems to be a little bit of an issue. And that is the auto trace function. So what we can do here, the brightness tabs, and now we go update. And that doesn't seem to change anything, but that doesn't really make sense. Oh, I'm on the, now we'll try on the colors, see what that does. Oh, I think something is okay. The reason why it was not working, I was having the path selected. So we have to, sorry about that, we have to make sure that the image is selected. And now we can go and update. So here we are in the color scan, and as we are increasing this number, we will see that we're getting all these colors back. And when satisfied, we'll click the OK. And now there is a group, but that is that path, and now I want to have the group. And as you can see, that is the group of the vector, and that looks like a good solid image too. But sometimes, depending on the quality of image you have, you don't get a really nice finish with it. And what you will find quite often too is you get quite a bit of curved corners, so you don't get the really sharp corners. There are minor adjustments what can be made in the settings, but so that is an option. And delete. And in this group, you would have to ungroup it, and may have to, will have to do a break apart, because your greens, there is green over here, and two separate greens. So all your light greens, they would be in one path, but for ink stitch to work, it would have to become all individual paths. So like for this leaf, the light green, the way it is right now, it would have to be two paths, because they are separated by the black line, but I'll go into something how you can combine these pieces in order to have it as one fill area, but I'll do that in another video. So that is that image, and now I'll delete this one. Then we have, say you have an image and it is black and white this way, and we would want the white to be stitched. Then what we would want to go is path trace bitmap, and then basically we're coming back to the single scan again, and we go to the brightness cutoff, and we want to make sure on this one, like if I go update, I want my vector to be the black lines. So like the black lines are what is going to show up on the screen. We can go and do it this way, but you make a mess. If we want the white lines to be shown, then that's where we need to go for. So what we want to do is invert image, and then we go update, and there you can see now we are back to the same kind of drawing as what we did on the first trace bitmap. And now we can go, and if we increase the number like what we did on the other one, then we may get better results. So wherever you're happy and satisfied with what you want, then click on the OK, and then we can see in the objects panel here there is a path created again. And now you may think, hey, there's a problem, but don't worry, that is only because we inverted the trace bitmap, and the black from the trace bitmap is showing on top of the white from the image. So all we need to do here is drag it out of the way, and that is the path selected, and now we can go fill it back in again, and we can go and delete the image, or if we want to do more scans we can do that. So I'll delete that one, and we can fill that one back in, and delete. And now I'll go to this image. As you can see, this image, it does not have the black outlines. An image with the black outlines, that works like a charm always with the trace bitmap, but when you come into these kind of images, it can be tricky, and it just depends also on how sharp these edges are with coloring, and sometimes we don't see it unless we really go and zoom in. And some images, when you're zooming in really close, you will see that the edges are not really nicely defined. So, and that will give sometimes issues on getting a nice trace bitmap. So now this one, we have the image selected, path, trace bitmap, and now we go update, and we get a black screen, and that is because the brightness is really low. Let's go and up that, and let's see what happens then. There you can see we have one flower. Let's go and up it more, and there you can see we only getting, basically we can get the outside. If we would go, oh, I should go and not invert, update. As you can see, we only getting a full shape of the whole pattern. This could be a useful scan for the design if you're thinking of putting a satin around the design. Then this could be of use, and I will go into that on another video. So there is a possibility that you could use it, but if you want to stay with getting all the colors, then what we'll go, and we go to the color quantization, try that, and let's go and up it, see what happens. And as you can see, that doesn't give the right image either. We can go try edge detection. There you can see there are some edges, but not all of them are showing up, and the reason for that is also because of the different colors and the closeness of the colors. It is hard for it to define where they are separating. As you can see, we cannot really get the result. I can go even further down and see what it does. As you can see, we cannot get the results we're looking for. So then we can go and do an auto trace, and I go and do an update, and that looks great over here on the trace bitmap. So I'll click on OK, and now we go back to our image again, or our screen, and there we can see it is still the one fill, just like I mentioned before, that the auto trace does not appear to work the way it should be, or it doesn't transfer it like that onto the screen. I haven't checked out if there's a possibility of, no, that's only one path and it's only one color. Now let's see what have we got. As you can see, there's all kinds of speckles on there, so it just does not work. So now we'll select, oh, I should go edit, undo, move. I should go, okay, now we are back to our image and back to our trace bitmap. So as we could see, that doesn't work. So now we'll go to the multi-scan. Now we can go for the grays and we can update, and there you can see that would be something we could use, because we have the different grays, and we can go and they become separate paths, and then we can go and color them in separately. So this could work. And if we go to 5, let's see what happens. Now as you could see, in this flower the center part has disappeared. So the minimum we want on this image, that would be 6. And we can see, even if we go higher, if that would increase any value. No, that seems to be the right number. So we'll leave it at a 6. And let's go and click OK. And I'll turn the image off for a moment so it doesn't get distorted with some of the colors in between. And as you can see, that looks pretty good. So now we can go and object ungroup it and deselect, and we can go and make those green, and those three are one path that still needs to be broken apart further. This flower we can we'll give that a color, and we can give that one a color, and there we can just click that, and we can change these colors and have things filled in. Okay, that is the grays. But now we can also, I'll go back to the image once more, have the image selected, and I'll turn these path, turn the visibility off for a minute. And okay, now we are back at the image again. We do go back to the trace bitmap and the multi-scan, and we go and do colors, update. Now we have, and we found out with the grays that you needed 6 scans. And also one more thing, there is an option here for stacking. Stacking can be used also, but that creates a fair bit of work of cutting holes, and you really with a simple image like this, it would not be too hard to use it as a stack, but for some images it can become quite a job. So here we go to the multi-scan, the colors, and that looks good on the screen, and update, and we go OK, and that looks good on the screen. As you can see, the group is selected here, and there we have basically exactly the same as the original image. And if we go and ungroup it, most of the time we could have gone and removed the background, but I forgot to check mark that. I can show you here on the trace bitmap, there is a remove background. You can apply that, but sometimes what can happen too is that there are parts in the center what you want, and then you would want to have the background still selected. So then we take the background away, and I can go and delete that one, and now I'm left with exactly the same flower. So hopefully this video will help you in creating some of your designs from an image, and what will assist you in your embroidery venture. Okay, thanks for watching and have fun.